Yay, we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Refresh. This is a time to connect, be inspired, learn something, and, ultimately feel a bit better for this time we get to spend together. And thanks for all the feedback you've been sharing. Continue to send it to us because this is what Generation W is all about. We're still talking about Ida Epidum's visit last week. Wow. Of note, for those of you who are interested, today is the deadline to submit applications for grants being offered by Gingerbread Capital. It's part of the I Fund Women's ongoing relief efforts to provide support for women-led businesses. 25 companies will be awarded $10,000 each in states hardest hit by the coronavirus crisis. So listen, this is your last day. If you've been thinking about it, if you're on the edge, if you know a women-led company you think would benefit, by all means, everyone should have this opportunity to earn the next opportunity. And, what great vision and support by Gingerbread Capital, of course, co-led by the great Ita, who left us with many thoughts last week. Day 67, that's one of the things that every single day I wake up, what day is this? But I love the Nigerian proverb, and I wasn't alone. People actually afterwards texted this to us, where she said, if you educate a man, you educate an individual. However, if you educate a woman, you educate a nation. And I think that's just a great link to our fantastic guest today, Sanyin Siang. She's the world's #1 executive coach, author of a book called The Launch. She's an influencer and the founding executive director of Duke University's Coach K Leadership and Ethics Center. When we say that millions of people are paying attention to Sanyin, what she has to say, we are not kidding, because she has over 1 million followers on LinkedIn. And after this show, I am sure that will be many, many more. Sanyin, hello and good day. Here we are.
Hi, Donna. It's such a joy to be here, and welcome to my kitchen.
I love your kitchen. Very nice.
One of my favorite places. Oh, I'm showing you guys the mess in my kitchen. Maybe won't do that yet. You guys don't know me. The viewers don't know me well enough.
No, but Robin Roberts always says, lead with your mess. It's quite all right. It's okay. We love that.
So, because if you were visiting me, as we're great friends, we will be having an unfiltered conversation around my kitchen island. And so that's what today is, an unfiltered conversation about thriving in life during this interesting time.
Well, yeah, you do so many things, Sanyin, right? You're a wife, you're a mom, your spouse is a frontline healthcare worker on top of all of that. Let me just say, the myth of doing it all tends to crush us at times when we feel we have to do it all. And yet we're being asked to do a lot these days.
Yeah, and you know what? It is a myth. It is a myth because, okay, that wonderful intro and bio, let me just start off with, that seems, I see that on paper, but I don't feel it's all me because I struggle. I struggle a lot. And actually, do you want to know the secret to what I really do, Donna?
I do. Well, it's just not me, but all of us do, yes.
Secret to what I really do is I have a lot of struggles like everyone else because we have so many demands on our time and our attention, and we're high achievers, so we strive to try to do everything to excellence, right? And what I discovered is when I have these struggles, I just reach out to friends and different leaders. Do you want to say hi, Oliver? Hi, Oliver. This is my 7-year-old.
Thanks for joining us, Oliver. How you doing?
Can you go get a copy of the launch book for me? Okay. And with these struggles, so I just reach out to friends and leaders that are in our community, and I discovered they have answers, and I find different answers that work well for me. And I discovered that if it helps me, chances are there's other people who are struggling too, and let me share it out. So I'm great at identifying and defining the problem, great at solution finding, and then I translate that solution and amplify it. So all the advice that I share, really, it's advice that I need to hear.
Well, if you need to hear, we need to hear, because we have a lot of people here. You've talked about the development of great habits that we should be looking at. You've talked about excellence. You talk about us all being in the same kind of boat. You talk about values. Where do you want to just jump in today? Let's just jump in.
So let's start with a struggle that I had last week. Last Thursday, there was something about week 9, right? Because I count March 1st as the day that when the NBA suspended the season. That was the day the entire country took notice. And I counted that as the following week, that Monday is week 1. So we're about week 9. And there was something about week 9, and I just hit a wall last week, last Thursday, to be precise, where I felt overwhelmed. It was the first afternoon where there wasn't back-to-back meetings. And I just, instead of spending time with my kids or checking off the to-do list, I'm 2 weeks behind on email. I just wanted to crawl into bed. And then I was kicking myself where, am I slacking? And I'm not performing to the level of excellence I was used to. And you get all these voices in your head. And so I posted privately on Facebook, and I discovered so many people were also facing the same thing. And then I discovered what was happening was I was really upset at myself for not intentionally prioritizing my time around things that really matter. And then there's that thing we do, or maybe it's just me, where you kick yourself for kicking yourself, right? And I just thought it gave me a time to reflect, and I just thought I'll share some of those habits that helped me got out of that slump.
So that's great, because if they're working for you, I'm sure they're going to work for a lot of us as well. And I think you just coming right on out of your kitchen, sharing your vulnerabilities, right? You're right. We have labels. The #1 executive coach. Whoa! You run a leadership. The people that I have met with you, with Lisa, with Ita, at your leadership groups are the most amazing people who are doing amazing things, and yet all of the people who are joining us today are amazing people too, right? All of us have these amazing qualities. And I know you're going to love that we're going to just say hello to like Renee from Colorado and Beth from California and Jennifer Wolf, who just writes brilliantly here. And we'll acknowledge all those people as we go along. Is that okay? Did you want to, tell me, do you want to jump into, should we start to talk about your 5 habits? Or I actually do have a question before we get there. Because I've acknowledged all these people that are in your orbit that you work with through the Leadership Council, but you coach CEOs. And yet you're in your kitchen saying, I'm going out on Facebook and asking people what they think. So on the one hand, I feel like the CEO is like the Wizard of Oz. It's this person behind the green curtain, and there's all this smoke around it. Is there different strategies between coaching CEOs and coaching all of us who are here with you today?
Well, first of all, there was this comment you made about my bio and background, and I look at you, Donna, and I'm in awe. I remember the first time we met, I was intimidated because here's Donna Orender,
right.
like this legend in the sports industry. She helped build the WNBA into what it is today, helped build the PGA into what it is today, and then she's going out and changing the world with Generation W, and I was intimidated. And so I think we all have a bit of that. And the first thing is we have to recognize, see each other, reveal our human side, and also recognize that we're all humans and we're all in the same boat. So to your question about the work with CEOs and how, if anything, that's different, I'll say something that's the same is they're all humans, right? And we all have our fears. We all have our hopes, and it's tapping into that and then sharing that. And I think one of the trends that I'm excited to see that was different than 10 years ago when it comes to business leadership is that we need our leaders to be more human, because we follow human beings. We don't follow positions or titles.
Right.
And that means being strategically vulnerable.
Wow, strategically vulnerable. That sounds like you have to really think about that. But what stops us from being human?
Here's this one insight. about what stops us from being human. One is we're afraid, we might have this idea of what a business leader should be, right? What we see in the movies. So we strive to be that, which is, oh, you always have the answers, and oh, I'm tough, and it's almost this superhero quality. And it's not that aspect that makes us superheroes. It's actually our vulnerability that makes, and our ability to connect, and our ability to forgive ourselves, right? That makes us, that helps us attain that superheroism.
Right,
and
right.
I think a lot of us on this call, because I know many of you, we're all high achievers. And high achievers, we are perfectionists. And then we strive for the perfection. We don't hit all the things we want to do. And if you're like me, then you beat yourself up over it. Right. Now, the rest of the world is more forgiving of us than we realize. Why aren't we as forgiving of ourselves?
Yes. Well, you can't, wait, you can't ask questions. You have to answer them today.
No, that was a question I've been asking myself. So one question is, did we do our best to forgive ourselves today? You know?
Yes.
Because we have to. We happen to be in an unprecedented crisis of our lifetimes. We can't perform to the same level of excellence that we have been before, and that's okay. And then the other thing that I find super interesting and exciting is, hey, you're in my kitchen, and I saw Tiger Lily last time we talked, right? Your cute puppies, and we are seeing on screen. You saw Oliver. We're seeing each other's lives, the messiness of each other's lives, and that messiness is beautiful because that's what makes us human. And I'm hoping that as a silver lining to all of this, that we're able to see each other in totality, not just the work Donna, or the work Sanyin, but we're seeing Sanyin and Donna.
Right. So, and actually you talked a little bit about that. I mean, you talked about like overachievers and superstars and stuff. And I just wanted to say hello to Nikki Glover and Lakeisha Burton. And I thought Sue Levine was driving, so she must be in her car listening to us. We're better than radio today. And then my superhero daughter-in-law, who has 4 kids under the age of 10, at home, homeschooling. Oh my gosh, right? Yeah, that's a big wow. That is a big wow. So kudos to all of you. So let's put Lisa Shallot's going to wait. She's going to start our questions going, as she does. Lisa Shallot happens to be an amazing leader, very accomplished, incredibly smart, and her name has popped up all the time. So people are going, who's Lisa Shallot? I think we're going to have to introduce this world to Lisa Shallot here, right? She said, Sanyin, when you felt overwhelmed, what do you do? Being self-aware is a great start, but then what?
When I reached out on Facebook, I thought, you know what, let's be vulnerable. Let's share this. And I saw the huge set of comments that, hey, I'm feeling it too. I'm feeling it too. I'm feeling it too. That we are all it made me realize, okay, I don't have to be embarrassed about this. We're all in the same boat. And just that realization that we're not alone, we're all in the same boat, that actually creates a sense of belonging, right? We're all belong on the same boat right now, regardless whether we're moms or we're not moms, but we're all just struggling. And then the second thing is I reached out to friends. And Lisa, I don't know if you remember, I did reach out to you because Lisa Shallot is also one of the wisest people and most self-aware people there is on this planet. And with all her accomplishments and all her success, she never forgets how to connect as a human being. And because of that, we listen to her. And she said, and something Lisa, something you always say is like, stop. And instead of trying to dismiss this feeling or beat yourself up over it, stop and embrace that feeling. Okay, I'm being overwhelmed. And then ask yourself, why? Right? Because we can be overwhelmed for different reasons. And when we start asking ourselves why, and I realized it was because I wasn't prioritizing my time the way I wanted it to be.
Okay, so let's jump in right there, because that you have laid out 5 habits, healthy habits, that can help us all thrive, if you will, in a time when it's really difficult. Okay, so number one, I think that you just talked about. One is to set time boundaries for yourself. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So with the first habit, this is something I learned from General Marty Dempsey. And by the way, our military.
Oh, I love Marty. I love him. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so just as background for those of you who may not know, General Dempsey, he is a 4-star general who is the 18th chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, which is the highest military position in highest military rank in all of our nation's military. And he is also one of the most humble people you'll ever meet, and incredibly self-aware and wise as well. And he shared this story with me and actually others several years ago. He said when he became the chair of the Joint Chiefs, he knew that his time there would be even more demands on his time than ever. So what he did was he created these blocks of time to just reflect. And those times to reflect are sacred because, in our society, we all want to make impact. So we get lulled into the sense that it's all about having a bias for action, and we have to jump in and do and fill up our hours. And but we forget to reflect. So block off time to reflect, to think, to process, because there's huge learnings from that. So I try. It's hard, and by the way, it's a lot harder than it sounds, because when I do that, try to block off time on that calendar, and then there's a request for a meeting.
Yes.
I say, oh, okay, well, we'll let it go this time. We'll let it eat into that time. And before you know it, there's no block time anymore.
Great, because sometimes for me, it's like, oh my gosh, if I don't do the laundry right now, I do happen to love a clean sink. It's one of the things that's driving me crazy since my kids are home. Why can't you just leave the sink clean? It matters to me. I will go jump in that, and I will, and it's true. We all eat into that time where we really do need to think and reflect. So I think your first one is really, really helpful.
Thank you. And by the way, instead of taking a nap last Thursday when I just kind of hit that wall, and all the comments were like, go take a nap. You want to crawl into bed? Me, Rip Van Winkle, go and do it. You need it? Guess what I did? A load of laundry, a load of dishes. And it's like, oh, I also let me make dinner. So no nap.
No, there you go. Okay, so what's the second habit on your list?
Environment matters. And this is, in the leadership world, and what you're doing with Generation W, and refresh this community, the people we put in our lives. That's probably one of the most important things in our environment, right? That's why in organizations, when I'm working with leaders in organizations, it's about culture. Culture is really our environment, right? And in our lives, it's the friends that we have surrounding us. Coach K, our friend Coach K, because I used to serve on the V Foundation with Coach, and Coach he always shares the story about his mom, which is she's 8th grade education. Coach is the first person in his family to go to college and get a college degree, and his mom, with an 8th grade education, is one of the wisest people in his life. And one of the pieces of advice she gave to him is get on the right bus. And what she meant by that is surround yourself with the right people. And it's not people in terms of status or position or title. It's people with values and the similar values about what matters. And so like with refresh, like we're all in the same boat, right? Going back to that theme again, we're all in the same boat. We can be encouragers for each other because people change people. Friends actually make us more resilient. Friendships are what makes us thrive. Right? Our friendships with Lisa, with Ita, with Akila. I mean, that's
Linda.
Okay.
You're right. We should raise hands to the kitchen cabinet right now. You can have a name, which is really kind of cool. But I love this idea that people change people, right? And if we can pay more attention to the people who really do make us feel good,
Yes.
And what is about that is really valuable. I love this idea about the people who we put in our lives matter. And I do believe that that is essentially a core ethos of Generation W.
Yes.
When people, how you show up, right, is
Mhm.
really matters. And when you are encouraged to show up and feel like you can show up, then you bring your best self, which is the work that you have dedicated yourself to do.
And they the people in our lives, they cheer on your success, they invest in you, and by the way, we invest in others, right? We invest in them. They're not afraid to tell you the truth. I've done plenty of stupid things in my life, right? And
Right.
good friends are courageous enough and have the trust enough to be able to give me the truth about Sanyin, that was really dumb.
True. Now, so the question is, this question came up. If I look down, anyone else, it's just because I'm looking at people who are sending stuff in, not to be disrespectful to anybody here, but how do you retrain your brain towards kindness and forgiveness to yourself? Because I'm sure we've all been in the situation. We have a good community. We're feeling up, but you know what? You can't get rid of that niggling feeling on, you know what I mean? How do you do that? That's tough. That's tough.
I think I struggle with that every day, right? Because it's a long ingrained habit to sort of be tough on ourselves and to strive for excellence. And so when we don't achieve it, it feels terrible.
Oh, I love that we can hear your kids, by the way.
they're all, you know what they're watching? They're watching Supergirl.
They're watching Supergirl. I love that. They're watching you, in other words, right? Mom is cast as Supergirl. Hello.
Oh my gosh. I think all moms are superwoman. All moms. Let's give a shout out to all the moms out there.
Without a doubt. It's so funny because before I came on with you, a woman sent me this email and it's this text, and she wrote, "Being a mother takes courage, resilience, and the ability to sacrifice gracefully.
Yes.
At some point, your kids will see you and recognize what you have been for them and appreciate you greatly one fine day." And I wasn't complaining about anything. It was just like sort of her commentary. And I thought, that is so beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's something we all need to hear, not only from ourselves, but hopefully from our kids. I know there's a lot of people here who have kids. There's some that don't. But that relationship, especially now, is pretty demanding.
So this idea of forgiving yourself, so I'll share one thing with you that's helped me these past few weeks in thinking through that. So we tend to be accommodating to everyone else, right? We accommodate, we are. I know that's something a lot of women struggle with. We accommodate everyone else. Are you one of the people that you're accommodating? And that has to do with framing yourself as, do you believe you're worth it, right? And do you know your worth? So Laura Wong, who wrote the book, The Edge, Competitive Edge from Adversity, it's a new book that just came out. She's fantastic. She's a friend and she shared this story about a watch. So, and I'll share the story with you because it was like a revelation. So there was a father who said to his son, who was on his dying bed, he said to his son, "This is my grandfather's watch. Why don't you take it and you go to the jewelry store and see how much they will give you for it?" So the son does that, comes back and like, "Jewelry store will offer me $150 for it." Father said, "Okay, now take it to the pawn shop and see how much they would give you." Came back, $10. Now father said, "All right, take this watch, now go to the museum." Son came back. It's like, "I don't believe it, Dad. The museum said this is a rare antique watch, and they're going to offer us $500,000 for it." And the father said, "Know your worth." And part of knowing our worth is surrounding us with people who also know our worth. Right. And and I was looking at my family. I'm like, we are superheroes, in our children's eyes. They know our worth, and so that be enough. The people in our surroundings, and then also know just bringing ourselves, that's enough. That's enough. And tell yourself that every day. Know your worth. You're enough. And you will forgive other people, won't you? That's what we would do. We will forgive our other people.
Yes, I actually, you know what? That is a really good thing. If I would do something for someone else, then why wouldn't I do it for myself?
Exactly.
Right? That's a really, I think about that at times, right?
So why not, when you're starting,
Yes.
I'll do it. When I was starting to beat up on me, another friend who is a former trauma psychologist, she said, well, Sanyin, here's the technique, here's the power of friendship. See, I reach out to a lot of friends, right? And she said, imagine that, Sanyin, as your child, because you would never be that harsh on your own child. So imagine a Sanyin as your child, and how will you talk to that Sanyin when you're about to beat up on her? I thought that was a brilliant.
That is great. It's also like, yes, absolutely. It's part of the foundation of our book, Wowsdom, the Girl's Guide, right? Talking to your younger self. For anybody who's just joined us on Facebook Live, hi. We are hosting Refresh, right? Which is this midweek ability to connect and learn and refresh our spirits. And today we have Sanyin Siang. And I always want to make sure I get that right. And we're talking about healthy habits in this crazy world that we're living in. And also the challenge where life and work are intertwined in a way that we can't actually separate one or from the other.
That's right.
So, okay, now, Sanyin's giving us her 5 healthy habits. The first one was creating, right, boundaries for your time. The second one was about environment, which is the people we put in our lives.
That's right.
How they matter, how they very much matter. And now number 3.
So I am actually, okay, my brain's gone to mush.
Okay, Sherry will tell us. What's our 3?
So I'm actually looking up like exactly the wording of the 5 healthy habits I'm reframing.
Okay, Sherry, help. Sonia, yeah, there you go.
There we go. Okay. And I do believe all of this. I just need to organize them. And then I had like a brain freeze. See, now the old me would be kicking myself for having that brain freeze. The new me is like, hey.
All right, life happens. Okay. So you can, how about know what you stand for? I love that.
What you stand for. Oh, so part of the prioritization of your time, because there's going to be not a lack of reach outs that people have for you, to engage, to, and we also, look, when this all started, a silver lining was the world for the first time had a standstill, had a pause. And it was actually a gift to us to also pause. Yet, do we all just pause, or do we just fill it up from 8 to 7 with Zoom calls, right?
Yes, we're feeling, I don't know, is everyone out there filling up their lives with calls and cleaning your sink and stuff? I don't know. Yes.
Exactly. And so part of this, so we can get into the habit of just doing things and not being intentional. And I think to be intentional, it's understanding what you stand for, right? And what's important in your life. And also during this time, times of crises, it's natural to panic. And when we panic, it may not be our best selves that show up, right? I'll be the first to admit it. There are times these past few weeks when I've yelled quite a bit and it just not our best selves. The thing is to stop and know what we stand for, to hold on to what really matters to us, because the crisis will end. This isn't forever, it will end. Our reputations will go on. Mm-hmm. And what people will remember us for and judge us for a year from now, 2 years from now, is by the actions and decisions that we make today.
Okay. So here's a question and that's deep, right? Marianne Jacoby, who's I think maybe we should call all the people who come regularly, we should call them refreshments. Refreshments. She's a refreshment. and she's refreshing, but she says, how do you consistently give and receive truth? Because many are ingrained to tell people what they want to hear, and you're in the business of delivering truth, which I think also ties into this whole concept of knowing your worth as well.
Yeah. So the delivering and receiving truth, we have a hard time seeing ourselves clearly. We all have that blind spot, right? And so as a coach, it's a lot of my work is around eliminating that blind spot. And every time we change context, like for example, there's a new member of the team, or we move up in the organization, or change jobs, change industries, what may be a strength before may actually be a detriment now, and what may be because the environment changes. So there's always going to be new blind spots. And the way to eliminate blind spots is to go out and get data, good or bad, we have to get that data. So that truth is, I see that truth as just data from that. So in terms of how do we create an environment for other people to give us truth? Key to that is ask for it. And when you ask for it, your tone, how you be aware of how you're saying, because like if Donna, you're saying to me, hey, Sanyin, that was not your best. And I'm like, I can say, oh, Donna, I want you to give me the truth all the time. The moment you see my expression go like this, guess what? You're never going to tell me the truth again, right? So your expressions, and as a leader, your expressions are not your own anymore, right? So that's
right. But I think what Marian, and that's all true, right? But I think what she's digging in here on is that we're ingrained to tell people what they want to hear. There is risk in truth. There's a lot of risk in truth. And it's much easier times just to say, that was great. Let's move on. And some of it's because of your, right, the reaction you might get. It's just like, I'm not going to go there. I don't want to deal with that. So it's an interesting.
That's a great, okay. So the purpose of sharing truth is to empower the other person. And by the way, that truth can be constructive, such as, if you stop saying like or when you talk, that might actually make your message come across a lot better, right? So it's behaviorally focused. So that's empowering them. And that truth should also be positive. I mean, here's the thing is like, back to the worth thing. When you're really, really, really good at something, chances are you think everyone else is good at it too. So we have a terrible time of knowing what our own superpowers are. We're great at identifying other people's superpowers. And then we think, oh, yeah, it's that, curation and convening people is Donna's superpower. But the other person, and then we assume it's so obvious they must know it too. Well, we have a hard time seeing our own superpowers.
Oh, that's so true. So true. So true. I don't know if anybody who's watching this, do you feel Sanyin just like, she's just leaning in? Oh, nice. I love it. You're just leaning, like you're just leaning into, I'm like, I want to like get right here and talk to you. And I'm sitting back here, I'm like, I'm taking it all, but I want to see right here. All right, listen, I wrote down the notes so I can help you.
Thank you. And thank you for all of your forgiveness and me not recalling all five.
No. It's like, it's fine because it's all here and we got it. Ready? Okay. I think this is a beautiful one. Allow yourself a moment of joy.
Yes. Oh, okay. So my friend, Julie Carrier, and her husband, Bill Carrier. Julie is this amazing speaker, empowerment of girls. That's her focus, her life's mission. And at a dinner last fall, Bill and Julie shared something they do every night at dinner. They said, we ask each other 3 questions. What's your moment of joy today? What did you learn? And I can't remember the 3rd question because I was focused on the moment of joy. So this is why I have to take notes and write things down. If I remember the 3rd question, I will share. But the moment of joy really hits. And when COVID hit, I think that's especially important, is reminding ourselves, reflecting at the end of each day, what is a moment of joy today? Because we can see there's always going to be good things that happen, and there's always going to be not so great things that happen in the day. But and we can easily just have our minds just go towards the bad things that happen or the problems that need to be fixed, like the dishes in the sink, and forget to pay attention to that moment of joy. So we make that a habit. Yeah, that's my kid. We make that a habit of reminding ourselves, reflecting and asking ourselves, what's a moment of joy today?
That might be great. It's like anybody who's listening has access to a keyboard or whatever. Share it. It would be great to all of us share a moment of joy.
Yes.
I do think that moment, that break, we all can get in a down cycle, and you think, oh, this is wrong, and then you go to here, and then you go to here, and all of a sudden, but wait a second, here's a moment of joy, and let that, and obviously that has not only psychological impact, but physiological impact, where it releases all of these hormones in your brain and it lifts your whole body up. So maybe that will be something that, here's Beth, I love this. Her moment of surfing is hiking. Her moment of joy is surfing, which she's a great surfer, hiking, and hugging her kids. Oh, what a great share. I love that.
I'm going on the comments of my iPhone right now.
That's good.
This is great. Oh, and the thing is, when you're doing that, guess what? You're also creating a memory for yourself because you're paying attention to that moment of joy. And we can look back at our lives and remember all the great memories. And that's going to affect our perspective. I mean, that's going to be part of our thriving and part of our resilience as well,
Absolutely. And here's a question. Here's a question from Ruth.
Okay.
All right, Ruth. How can we be more empathetic to our teammates, both personally and professionally? It's one thing to forgive ourselves, but many still have performance expectations on them. I'm not sure if I understand that. Probably need a little more understanding. I could dig in, but I'm not sure. But let's just stay with the first part of the question. How can we be more empathetic to our teammates, both personally and professionally? And I assume that you deal with this all the time.
It's one of my favorite questions. So just for the general people who are listening right now, how many of you wake up in the morning and say, I want to really mess up today? I want to show up as my worst for my team today. No one.
No.
And so everyone wants to say, I want to be my best today.
Yes.
So what happens? What are the obstacles that get in the way of that? Right. And so I think that's a source of empathy too, in understanding, okay, so John Smith or Jane Smith is not performing at their best today, or they made a mistake, or okay, let's talk to them and figure out why, right? Can there be a learning moment from that? And let's assume this idea of the most respectable intent.
Right.
Most respect, and that's something I learned from this one Rachel Greenwald, who is and she writes amazing books on relationships, but those relationships also can be personal relationships can also transfer to the workplace relationships. And she shared this idea of assume most respectable intent.
Wow.
To figure out, okay, what got in the way of them becoming their best? And guess what? It might be the same thing that got in the way of us becoming our best. And in talking it out, we might create a shared solution to that and discover something about ourselves too.
Right. So you got to work at it. Here's more joy. I like this. Jennifer, joy is going outside to my garden. I know a Jennifer who has the most amazing garden that is the most joyful. I don't know if it's this Jennifer, but if it is, I'm exceedingly excited. Christina is walking dogs with my husband at night, which is awesome. Andrea Mail's on. Hi, Ann. Joy is walking as a family and seeing friends and family also walking, which actually in this day and age is a nice thing, right? Because that is the way we get to see people right now, I guess. Okay, let's go to your fifth habit.
You
know what it is? Yeah, you know what it is? Don't skate to where the puck is.
Skate to where it will be. And this is something I think organizational leaders, as well as for us personally, as we are all launching and reinventing our future right now.
Right.
So this is actually a Wayne Gretzky quote that I heard from a great friend, Angela Ruggiero, who happens to be a Hall of Fame ice hockey player and 4-time Olympian. And she shared this quote with me, which is, don't skate to where the puck is, skate to where it will be. And so when we think about that, if we are trying to move and plan for future where based on assumptions we have now, we are going to be behind. But instead, step up and think about what are the disruptions that will happen a year from now. And those new assumptions, right? Assumptions no longer hold true, those new assumptions, and move toward that, right? And for our organizations, it's about thinking about what are the disruptions. So I'll give you a great example, organizationally speaking. If you're an energy drink company,
yes.
If you're an energy drink company, what would disruption to your industry?
If I was
in the past, most people would say, well, yeah.
Okay, what would it be?
So most people would say, well, maybe another competitor. There might be a new technology that feeds us.
What happened if I was born with a new DNA set that automatically made me energized, and I wouldn't need anything from the outside to make me energetic?
That's right. It could be.
I don't know.
That's cool. That's very imaginative, Donna. But what if I were to tell you, so the old assumptions are about there might be a new technology that comes that injects like a new DNA, like the one you said, or even a new competitor for the drink business that never even entered before.
Right.
But what if it's self-driving cars, right? Because the time most people consume energy drinks is when they're going on long drives. So one of the major disruptions. So the old assumptions were very linear. But if you're really looking ahead to a year from now, or 2 years from now, 3 years from now, okay. And you're bringing in a diverse group of people to imagine and think about what are the new assumptions. Then competitively, skating to where the puck will be is also about addressing that. Right? It's also about addressing that. And so same thing with our careers too. Whatever skill sets we have right now, what will be the new skill sets that we should be prepping for?
Right. And that, it's funny, we spent some time with Leah Jewell, who's done work in this space. And those are really the great, what the question's like, what are the white spaces right now? Yeah. So I think that presents a really exciting time for us. If we can do something else you said, and General Dempsey said, take time to reflect, because you need kind of that, right? To be able to do that. So it's funny, I'll share that the other day I was sitting up here in my little office, which I adore. It's where I started this business here. You can see in my back, that's some of the original Gen W's. And I never took them down because they mean so much to me. And I started thinking about the white space, and I went running downstairs and I said, guys, we need to have a discussion. So this is my 2 sons and my husband. If this is the way the world is moving, and this is the way the world thinking, should we be thinking like this, right? Mm-hmm. Just to have those kinds of discussions are actually, that would be a moment of joy.
So by the way, you just gave a great example of environment matters, because when you're in your office, and I see the WNBA, Build-A-Bear that you have there, and start of Gen W, those are reminding you that, hey, it's no easy feat to do all that you have done, Donna. And those are visual reminders that are reminding you, look what you have accomplished. And
I don't look at it that way. I honestly, I just, there are things that make me feel good, right? Because of the people that's associated with it, or the outcomes that have been positive, right? I like building that bear at the Build-A-Bear. It was fun. Let me ask you this, Akila. Here's some validation for you. She says, great refresh. And she says, totally agree with your point about who you surround yourself matters. But how are you cultivating new relationships in this shelter-in-home new normal? Good question, right?
That's a great question. I think because
coming to refresh. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think those new relationships may be people you have met at previous settings, and you might have had a touch point, but you have never deepened that relationship or had the opportunity to deepen that relationship. And there are several of those, just like recently in the past few months. And this was a time to reach out and say, hey, let's get to know each other better. First of all, just checking in. I was thinking of you, wanted to check in and see how you're doing. And then let's just have a conversation. Rachel Greenwald was one of those people who was a relatively new relationship. And then through this, I was like, you know what, your work really has a lot of applicability right now. How do we take this idea of relationship building into the virtual space, and what
Yes.
and so we had a conversation about that, and she was actually the one who gave me the idea. We tend to, in a work meeting, go in person, go in, and it's like, here's the agenda, here's like, it's all business, right? But we forget that prior to that work meeting, as people are waiting for it to start, there's a lot of chit chat. So in a virtual setting, it's very easy to just say, hey, let's get to business, instead of starting off with, hey, let's just go around the table and talk about something you're grateful for, right now, or a moment of joy, right? And it's the same thing when you're reaching out to someone. It has to start from a place of care, and to start from a place of, hey, I'm really interested in what you have to say, because you're
right. You have to be willing to take that first leap, right? There's because some of the visual cues or the things you get from being in a room with people or being put in a room with people, that's kind of eliminated. You have to like transfer that to this virtual world, right? And that's different. I'll share with everybody here, and I'm thinking about this, and I know a lot of our Gen W teams on the phone, but we've done this program for the last 4 years now, girls, isn't that been? It's called No Friends. So Akila, it's called No Friends. And this woman, Megha Parekh, who works at the Juggler, she named it, and I was mortified. Well, because there's people who actually feel like they haven't met people. Your head's down, you're doing work all the time, you're on Zoom calls, you're not expanding people that you'd like to connect. And we said, you know what, we'll do that. And once a quarter, we have all these people that call, or people say, oh, someone new moved to the neighborhood, bring them in. And over this year, so I don't know, what is it? I'm looking at notes here. Stacy, maybe we've introduced maybe 350. Tara helps coordinate women. Yes. And people have gotten jobs. And I just started thinking about that. And Akila just popped it. It's like, we should do this virtually, because there are people at home and they want to meet people. And on the premise of, I have no friends, I want to make friends. And you know what? I'm going to use another one of your things when you said the people we put in our lives, or knowing what we stand for. When you walk in the room knowing, hey, we're here to do this, it makes it easier, right?
Yeah. And guess what? One of my students, Krista Rose Niemeyer, who's, oh gosh, the way she looks at the world, she had shared this one phrase with me when I asked her about, how, what does this person bring into your life? And she said, he makes my world bigger. And I thought, oh, wow.
That's a good thing. It makes my world bigger.
Don't we always be trying to make our world bigger? And through people, through new people, new perspectives, even those who disagree with us, understanding why. So in the launch book, launch was all about reinvent. It's about launching your new.
Where is your book? Did Oliver bring you your book?
Oliver, Sophie, hey, Soph, can you bring a copy of the launch book? Oh, there, go ahead. And so this idea.
I love it. Go ahead. I love it.
And so this idea of embrace also the naysayers is really about get different people who have different perspectives, right? And understanding not so much that it's a validation that something that won't work, but more about understanding, is there a blind spot? Is there a blind spot? And also just
it's interesting. Ann Flipsy just sent in a comment and said 45% said that people have no circle of friends, but that virtual contact can make a big difference. So I thought that was interesting. Can I, a couple of moments of joy here?
Yes.
Lisa Mora, joys and picnics in the backyard. I love having multiple threads here, right? And then someone said I should say hello to Lola, because Lola's always here. Hey, Lola. Everyone sees sleeping Lola behind me. She is Jacob's dog, and there's another moment of joy because my son is clearly watching because he wrote incredible content. Oh, that's a moment of joy. Here's a question for you. We should start posting moments of joy. That's a great way.
Yes, yes.
I agree. I think we should. Lisa, I haven't seen your moment of joy here, so you have to put it up.
And that's going to give us all ideas.
Last question we have. All right, we have two things to do here. Sanyin is at a university. Here's the book, the launch book. Actually, we bought a whole bunch and gave them out to friends. That's what we do.
And I've wowsed them. Wowsed them, like, it's like they're complimentary. Wowsed them and launch.
We're launching lives and launching businesses. How can we be there to support our kids who are high school and college students? How can we be there for them as they go through so much disruption? Now, your kids are not there yet. I have kids right at the cusp. So does Lisa. I think a couple other people do. There's a lot of disruption in our kids' lives for sure.
We had, and so I spent a lot of time. Now we're talking about my college students and my MBA students. The first week that this all started, we saw a lot of things in the news about just the mental health aspects, right? And so we started convening these small gatherings to really understand what is it that they're going through in their generation. And I think it's these two insights. One is this generation has been told ever since they were born that you can go out and change the world. And then when COVID hit, but you can. Your world, just start with the world around you. Start with the smaller world. Is that Jackie Robinson quote? A life is significant by the impact it has on other lives, right? And then there's that John Wooden quote, which is don't focus on what you can't do. Focus on the things that you can do, right? And so helping them, remind them you are changing the world. Just do it smaller worlds at a time. And don't discount the cascading power of kindness and good acts. And then the second insight is they were feeling a loss of control, right? Because like suddenly overnight, all these things that were normal assumptions, like, prom, graduation, all those things, everything changed. It's like, Donna, you told me before in our last conversation, the analogy, I think this is so brilliant of you. You said, it's like we landed on another planet, except that planet looks exactly the same as planet Earth, but it's another planet. And because we're on another planet, our bodies, our minds are still adjusting to that planet. And there's this dissonance of like, it's actually a rainy spring day right now, but usually it's a beautiful spring day. I'm like, the world looks exactly the same from my kitchen window, but it's not. And just reminding ourselves, we're on a different planet that just happens to look like Earth. So let's figure out what is different in this planet.
And how do we adjust? And how do we best adjust? This is like, the time flies by. There's been amazing comments and there'll be more. Everybody, please feel free to share this conversation on an ongoing basis. Let's just go over your 5 healthy habits if we could. You want me to, right? Here you go. Take us through them real quickly.
All right, set time boundaries for yourself. So do block off that time. It can be 1 hour. And by the way, for us overachievers, then we're going to be like, every week we're going to block out 10 hours. Do it. That's like saying, I'm going to go to the gym every single day and work out for 4 hours. And then the next week when we don't hit that, then we start sliding. And then before we know it, we don't do it anymore. So just say next week, I'm just going to block off 1 hour. And just really be disciplined about keeping that 1 hour. And then the following week, block off 2 hours. And just really treat that as sacred time for yourself. To know what you stand for, because guess what? You only have one name. You can't get yourself another. So are you going to be the person when this is all over that others will want in your life, in their lives? And so part of that is showing up, the disciplines to show up and know what your values are and what you stand for and express that through your actions for others. Allow yourself a moment of joy. That's reminding ourselves there's more goodness than not out there. And so see it. If you can see it, then you can be it. And if you can see it, then you can remind yourself, the world is good. The world is good. So those moments of joy, whether it's walking your dog or seeing other families or having that picnic in the backyard, that's a great suggestion. I'm gonna borrow that one. Surround yourself with what matters. And that is, the things that give you joy, like Donna in her office, the things that give her joy in her workspace. And also, importantly, the people who will speak truth to you and who will cheer you on and who are there to help lift you up, right? Good people. Surround yourself with good people, good friends. And the last one is, don't skate to where the puck is, skate to where it will be. That's a Wayne Gretzky quote. And that's basically saying, don't plan to move forward for assumptions as they are now.
Right.
What are the new assumptions? What are the ones that cease to exist? And plan your career, lead your organizations for that.
Awesome. Sanyin, thank you so much. As this refresh goes, refresh stays with us for a while. I'm sure there'll be more questions. We'd love to follow up with you and ask more of them. This has been so delightful and so literally uplifting. I appreciate it so much. Hold up your book one more time. People want to know where they can get it. Where can they get the book?
You can go on Amazon. It's on Kindle, as well as you can get a print copy. So Amazon will be the easiest place.
All right.
And, Donna, I am such, so the first time we met, I may have been intimidated, but then because you're Donna Orender, but you were also so super inclusive and welcoming and encouraging, and you are amazing. And this community, Generation W, and then what you're doing now with Refresh.
This is what we all do. Like it's about we. I say this, it's about we. And we is so powerful. We truly is powerful. I mean, there are days when we have to talk, what about that? We can do this. I truly believe we can do this. Or, and we won't give up by, the only way you can give up, no, you can't give up, right? Well, by trying.
Oh, and you know what? On the Coach K, like, it's easier, like when we all have to believe in ourselves, but it's harder to let down a group than it's harder to let down than yourself. So groups, we're not
right. You can't let down Generation W. This is national. We're here. Okay, so much. Let me tell everybody about next week. And Sanyin will join us. She'll be on the sideline sending in questions. So much has been written and talked about what so many of us know firsthand, and we touched about on it today, which is the increasingly amount of pressure impacting our mental health, especially that of women. And it almost seems to a disproportionate amount on women. So enter Jamie Olkin. Sanyin, I think you've met Jamie.
Oh my gosh, she's incredible.
A frontline mental health professional and expert. She's a psychotherapist who specializes in women-centered collaborative care. She's been a touchstone for me. So if I want to know what's going on, we're like, Jamie, what's going on? What are you hearing? Because she is on calls all day long. People are truly seeking her out. There's Jamie on how to cope. So I hope that you will all join us for a Jamie Olkin Refresh. It's so fun to say that, a Jamie Olkin Refresh next Wednesday, same bat time, same bat channel at noon. And also happy to report, under the really great leadership of Ruth Spencer Coley and Elizabeth Woods, that our virtual Generation Wow Girls Clubs continue. They'll be Friday at 4:00. Yes, leading into Memorial Day weekend. And we will tell you that the girls' self-reports are those are moments of joy. Those are moments of joy. They're continuing to grow. And actually, we might be up in your neck of the woods, North Carolina, putting together something. Soon we will announce that. If you'd like to see more of these refreshers or go back, if you've missed them, you got a sense from Sanyin that this is something special and you want to either watch her again or watch some of the others. Generation W at YouTube houses all of the refreshes. So you know what? If you're feeling low at any point and you just want to be lifted, make sure that you go to YouTube at Generation W at YouTube. I thank Sherry, who is our amazing technical producer, Stacy, the entire Generation W team, who literally comes together every single week so that we can welcome somebody and then share it with all of you. We'll see you then. And thanks a lot. Thank you, Andrea and Jennifer. I'm going to keep going until you just shut me off the air. And Sue and Akila and Debbie and Hold on, Ann Flipsy, and I mean, there's more and more. Oh, let's see, Lakeisha, and are we done?